Good evening, beautiful souls, and welcome to what I am calling Storybook Spirit Groups, where I will be guiding you in these sessions like I'm reading you from a bedtime story. So before we go into tonight's story on how problems are opportunities, I'd love for us to connect with something meaningful, an opening icebreaker. So here's what I'd like you to do. And if you're joining not in person, then if you're joining in person, turn to someone nearby. But if you're at home, hold this in your heart. And think of a time when something that felt really difficult or challenging at first turned out to open a door that you didn't even know existed. Maybe it was losing your job and it led to a dream career, or a health scare that transformed how you then started taking care of yourself, or even a relationship that taught you to love yourself more deeply and to trust life. Take a minute to bring an experience to mind, and then about 2 minutes each to share the story with someone. And again, if you're watching alone, hold that memory in your heart. Because today we're exploring how our most challenging moments can become our greatest teachers, our biggest growth opportunities, and sometimes our most profound and meaningful blessings. And what I love about this simple exercise is that every single one of us has at least one story like this, don't we? And this tells us something meaningful. That transformation through difficulty isn't the exception in life. It's actually woven into the very fabric of how we grow and live as spiritual beings. So have fun with this icebreaker, and I'll see you on the other side. So tonight, I want to share with you the spiritual teaching that life is happening for us, that we can take everything for our upliftment, which means reframing our challenges. Arleen Lorrance begins this chapter with her story, which is in alignment with our unity teachings. So in 1968, Arleen was confined to her bed with a serious heart disease. She was an agnostic with no religious background, facing what seemed like a devastating setback. But instead of falling into despair, she made what she calls a conscious affirmation. She opened herself up to whatever her next level of unfolding might be. And what happened next was extraordinary, because when we do take on this consciousness, we become alchemists, and the whole world conspires according to new laws and the spirit of grace. When she returned to work as a high school teacher in Brooklyn, she found herself in the middle of a violent fight breaking out in the school auditorium. And in that moment, she knew she was being asked to bring forward what she had learned in her illness. Without fear or hesitation, she became what she described as a conduit of peace in what could have been an arena of bloodshed. That heart disease, that apparent problem, had prepared her to be a vessel of love in a moment when love was desperately needed. From this experience, Arleen received what became known as the love principles, these principles that we are studying together. And the one we're focusing on now is that problems are opportunities. But here's what I find so beautiful about her story. She just didn't think her way into this principle. She lived it. She put feet on it. She connected with that fifth principle that it's not enough to know these things, as we say in unity. We have to live them. Her body breaking down became the catalyst for her consciousness breaking open, and her apparent limitation became her best ally for liberation. And this aligns so beautifully for what we know and teach in unity. that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and that every experience, especially perhaps the challenging ones, contains the seeds of our spiritual evolution. Now, Arleen teaches us something very practical about how this transformation happens. She talks about moving from demanding to questioning. So think about it. When we're in a problem mode, what do? If you're like me, we demand. We say things like, this shouldn't be happening. Why me? This isn't fair. Somebody needs to fix this. If only they saw the world the way I do. But when we shift into opportunity mode, we start questioning differently. The questions have a different tone. They start sounding like, what is this teaching me? How might this serve my growth? What new capacity is this calling forth in me? Or if we take this principle to the collective, what is new capacity is this calling forth in we? How can this experience help me or us serve others? In Unity, we talk about this as moving from appearance to truth. The appearance might be loss, illness, conflict, disappointment, the norms that we hold dear, changing in ways that we don't quite understand. But the truth is that we live in a universe that is fundamentally for us, not against us. The truth is that every experience contains divine possibility. Arleen teaches about letting go of what she calls our mental pictures, those rigid ideas we have about how life should unfold. I'm sure you have them. I know I have them. And she invites us to release control and trust the greater harmony, of course, what we would call divine order. And I think about affirmative prayer here. Instead of begging God to make our problems go away, we practice recognizing the spiritual truth that's already present. We might pray, I am open to the perfect unfolding of divine good in this situation. Or, I trust that this experience is serving my highest good in ways I cannot yet understand. We can apply this to the collective. This situation is serving us and our highest good in ways we can't quite understand. So we have to go to that principle that love is unblocked heart energy. When we're resisting what is, we're in problem mode. What we resist persists. But when we can move into acceptance, and not resignation, but that active, curious acceptance that's rooted in faith and knowing that life has an intelligence that moves towards wholeness and we are part of it, then the energy flows again. And this is where our understanding of Christ consciousness becomes so practical. So Christ consciousness, if that word doesn't resonate, it's that living love. It's that knowing that all is unfolding towards wholeness and we can surrender to that in trust and faith. Jesus didn't avoid challenges, he transformed them. And he saw beyond the appearance of crucifixion to the truth of resurrection, the new arising, the third way. And not because he was special in a way that we are not. We call Jesus the great example, not the great exception. He's our way shower. But he mastered this art of seeing opportunity to be what others see as tragedy, to see with the eyes of love in what looks like a hopeless situation. So here's what I want you to really take in tonight. Every problem or challenge is an intersection. It's a place where your current level of consciousness meets the invitation to expand. It's where your old ways of being encounter the possibilities of new ways of seeing, of transformation. This principle teaches that these intersections are actually chances for gratitude. Not gratitude for the pain itself, but gratitude for what the experience makes possible. The deeper compassion, the stronger faith, the clearer priorities, the more authentic relationships, the grounding in what really matters most. As within, so without. When we change our inner response to life's challenges, our outer experiences begin to shift. Not because the circumstances necessarily change, but because we are no longer defined by them. One of the things I love most about this teaching is it asks us not to be passive. It's calling us what I like to call alchemists of the heart. People who can transform the lead of difficulty into the gold of wisdom, compassion, and service. When we stop seeing ourselves at the effect of circumstances and start seeing ourselves as spiritual beings who choose this human experience for our growth and contribution, everything shifts, everything belongs. Our problems don't disappear, but they become the raw material for our evolution into love. So, here's what I'm curious about, and here's the question I want to leave you with, both for your own reflection and for any conversation you might have about this. So think of a current challenge in your life, individual or collective, even how you're in relationship to collective unfolding, something that's been feeling heavy or even problematic. And now, imagine sitting down for coffee or tea with the wisest, most loving version of yourself 5 years from now. What would that future self tell you about how this current challenge is serving your growth? What capacity did it call forth? What gift did it make possible, either for you or for others that you are meant to serve? So take a moment with that. Let yourself really imagine that conversation. Because here's what I believe. That wise future self isn't telling you something that might happen. They're revealing what's already true, what's already present, right here, right now, in this moment. We don't have to wait 5 years to access that wisdom. We can choose to see with those eyes today. So before you go into your conversations, I want to remind you, you're showing up to this work. You're being willing to look at your challenges through the lens of spiritual growth. You're choosing curiosity and wonder. This matters. This matters. This is how we change the world. One problem, one challenge, one consciousness at a time. Sending you love.